We have finally made it to the subclass I'm sure everyone has been waiting for, Solar. If you played Destiny at all during the Season of the Wish, you know that Solar has completely taken over the game from end to end. At its base, Solar has some incredible tools that allow players to survive easily, all while deleting groups of enemies and dealing heavy burst damage to bosses. Combined with the seasonal artifact mods, Solar has become an unstoppable force that makes it hard to recommend picking any other subclass in the game. But you probably want to know why. Today, we'll be taking a closer look at the Solar subclass in both PvE and PvP on every class: Hunter, Warlock, and Titan. Whether you are a new or returning player looking for an overview of how Solar stacks up as a subclass choice, or you are a veteran player who wants to see a snapshot of the meta, this video is perfect for you. Hey everyone, I'm Rizeki, and welcome to my analysis of the state of the Solar subclass in Destiny 2. As always, thank you so much for checking out the video. If you enjoy it and want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Did you know 90% of my viewers have yet to subscribe? So, if you haven't, don't forget to give the sub button a little tap if you want to stay up to date on my videos. I've got a final video in the State of mini-series coming out next week, and you won't want to miss it. But with all my shameless plugging out of the way, it's time to talk about Solar. Like I mentioned in the intro, Solar has a ton of great tools available right inside its base kit. First and foremost, Solar has access to some of the best sustain out of all the other subclasses. Restoration and Cure are built-in Solar keywords, which are powerful healing effects, alongside healing grenades for instant healing, and fragments like Ember of Resolve or Ember of Mercy that also provide healing. Solar not only has great healing, but also has some of the best supers in the game and the capability of dealing with large groups of adds, as well as providing players with an absurd amount of ability regen. The last major intrinsic benefit to Solar includes anti-champion stunning, where anti-barrier is granted while radiant, and anti-unstoppable is granted through ignitions. Season of the Wish in particular brought us a set of artifact mods that absolutely catapulted Solar to new heights. Kindling Trigger lets any Solar weapon apply Scorch, Flint Striker grants Radiant when landing precision hits with a Solar weapon, Rays of Precision ignites defeated targets while Radiant, and Revitalizing Blast weakens any boss damaged by a Solar ability. This combination of powerful artifact mods made some weapons such as Polaris Lance incredibly strong in endgame content. And these mods also made Solar keywords even more accessible than they already were. With so much going for Solar, there really isn't too much that it can't do. But to really know how Solar performs, we need to look at each class individually and see how each one takes advantage of the tools Solar gives them. As always, we're going to start with Hunter. Gunslingers have great supers which regen extremely quickly, and they excel at rapidly defeating single targets. By far, the most compelling gunslinger builds currently use the newly reworked Celestial Nighthawk or Shards of Galanor exotics. In the past, these exotics were simply super augmenting, but now have an important neutral game effect. Both exotics can quickly regenerate your Golden Gun or Blade Barrage super respectively. Celestial Nighthawk will return super energy for each precision kill you get, and Galanor will return super energy for each powered melee final blow you get. By running a Shards of Galanor build, you could also make use of the knock 'em down aspect, Ember of Torches fragment, and Ember of Empyrean fragments to continuously refund your powered melee, refresh your restoration and radiant buffs, while at the same time gaining an insane amount of super energy. This same knife combo also works with other gunslinger builds, albeit without the super regen, so you could use it on the Nighthawk build as well. Since most of our ability damage comes from our powered melee, our grenade slot is actually left open to slot in healing grenades for even more sources of sustain or healing. Our other aspects are kind of, well, mid, but have some uses and possible build paths, even if not as potent as with Knock 'em Down. 9 times out of 10, you'll opt to take On Your Mark, which provides you and allies with increased reload speed and handling. It's not the most insane effect, but Knock 'em Down does most of the heavy lifting for our gunslinger. On Your Mark can be helpful for DPS rotations, or just for making your gameplay feel a little bit more fluid. The final aspect is Gunpowder Gamble. This one is pretty niche, and if you like using it, it will generally take the slot of On Your Mark. Gunpowder Gamble will replace your grenade with an explosive that causes high AoE damage and ignitions. I find that Gunpowder Gamble tends to hinder my ability to heal if I'm using healing grenades, and the benefits it provides don't seem to outweigh your grenade anyway. So although not a terrible choice, I personally don't like using it, but it might have a place in a very specific type of build, or if it fits your playstyle. Outside of Celestial Nighthawk and Shards of Galanor, Gunslinger doesn't have many exotics that really benefit you. Young Ahamkara's Spine would have been a good mention, but it's no longer that viable due to a nerf to its energy regen a while back. Assassin's Cowl can be used to go invis on knife kills, which also pairs nicely with the knock 'em down and fragment of torches, just like Galanor. Caliban's Hand is really the only other notable PvE exotic. It works fantastic in lower difficulty content, since it's pretty easy to get kills on red bar enemies. In higher difficulties, however, it's much harder to get the knife kill, and in general, the chain explosion effect it's capable of is just not as potent. But with all that said, Gunslinger is an excellent PvE subclass, whether you need it for general gameplay or for boss DPS, particularly while using either the Celestial Nighthawk or Shards of Galanor exotics. In PvP, Gunslinger is decent, but mostly middle of the pack. Previously, Solar Hunter was the #1 choice in PvP due to the pre-nerfed young Ahamkara's spine. Now that it's been nerfed, Solar Hunters are more about using knives to catch unsuspecting opponents. Weighted heavy knives are probably the top choice for powered melees in the Crucible, and although you could be fine using any PvP exotic such as Wormhouse Crown or Stompies, you could also build heavily into your knives with Athers's Embrace. This exotic grants the already strong heavy knives the ability to one-shot kill enemies around corners by bouncing them off of walls. Outside of knives, you of course also have access to healing nades for quick healing, as well as trip mine and solar grenades for area denial and damage. For your supers, Golden Gun works surprisingly well in 6v6 and non-competitive modes, while Blade Barrage is very effective at killing grouped up enemies as well as popping bubbles and wells. Gunslinger in PvP is a solid choice given its access to easy healing, good supers, and strong powered melees, even if it falls short to other subclasses such as Strand. Next up, we of course have our Dawnblade Warlocks. If you play Destiny even a little bit, nothing I'm about to say is going to surprise you. Dawnblade might be the single best subclass option for Warlock players, and it probably also comes in the top bracket of subclasses in the entire game. Dawnblade specifically specializes in healing yourself and allies, and also in dealing as much damage from abilities as possible. At the top of that list, we have our Well of Radiance super. I have already made an entire video talking about Well of Radiance, so I'll keep this part short. Well is the most powerful support ability in the game, providing yourself and allies with infinite health regeneration, as well as Radiant. Well is brought to pretty much every single raid, dungeon, and Grand Master, assuming you have a Warlock on your team. You could sit in Well and not have to worry about dying to adds that spawn during DPS, you could freely revive down teammates, or you could just use it as a panic button to stop yourself from dying. Plus, if you are interested in one of the best movement options in the game, Well of Radiance and an Eager-Edged Sword lets you skate with ease. If you want to supercharge your Well of Radiance usage, you could also either opt to build with Phoenix Protocol for extremely fast super regeneration, or Lunafaction Boots to improve your team's weapon range and reload speed for boss DPS. Our other super, Daybreak, is a roaming super that lets you fly around, launching solar projectiles at any enemy you see. It's not quite as good as Well of Radiance, probably nowhere close, but there are some builds that take advantage of this super for content outside of raids and dungeons where Well is the most useful. If you're looking to use Daybreak, I recommend building around Dawn Chorus. Not only does this exotic boost your super, but it also provides a decent benefit while in neutral gameplay with its improved Scourge effects. Dawnblades also have access to some of the strongest exotics historically, with pre-nerfed Starfire Protocol taking over the game during the Witch Queen and early Lightfall. Currently, the top dog for Dawnblade exotic is Sunbracers. These exotics are absolutely amazing for ad clear and even for DPS. Getting a single powered melee kill lets you launch unlimited solar grenades for a short period of time. You set the entire battlefield on fire, and not much stands a chance against it. Pairing Sunbracers with the Touch of Flame aspect will literally make everything burn, leaving no ad left alive. It is a pretty strong build for content across all difficulties, and still allows you to have strong healing and team support options with Healing Rift, Phoenix Dive, and of course, Well of Radiance. There are also a couple more niche builds that have the potential to be strong as well. Verity's Brow is another way to create powerful grenades, and for anyone who has brought it to the Atheon encounter in the Vault of Glass, knows its full potential. You could otherwise opt for something like Rain of Fire for quick weapon reloads during a DPS phase, or to just improve fusion rifles. Dawnblade has it all: healing, team support, high damage, and great exotic support. With all of this available to Warlock, it's a no-brainer why people choose to run Solar, or feel forced to run Solar. It's just the best option. In the Crucible, Dawnblade is also strong. I hate to keep talking about Well of Radiance, but it's great for controlling capture points in modes like Trials of Osiris. Daybreak is actually a pretty solid alternative, shining in 6v6 like other roaming supers, or even working in 3v3 modes if you don't feel like using a Well. Icarus Dash helps you to easily move out of the way or to more quickly move around the map. Also, your Celestial Fire melee is a nice choice for long-range damage, and as a bonus can make you radiant with Ember of Torches. As with other classes, you also have access to healing grenades, solar grenades, among others, all of which are strong contenders for your grenade slot depending on your playstyle. There's not too much else to say here. Dawnblade is a solid choice in the Crucible. It may not be as fluid as Arc, but it provides a ton of utility that makes it a great choice. Last, but certainly not least, is Titan. Sunbreakers are all about being extremely high sustain and chaining single target kills. Like Gunslinger Hunter, Sunbreakers have the ability to fully refund their throwing hammer powered melee. The difference is that Sunbreakers do not require an aspect for this effect, so you have a little bit more freedom in choosing which of your 3 aspects you want to run. The obvious pairing with infinite melees is Roaring Flames. Getting kills with your throwing hammer will grant you stacks of increasing damage. So as long as you kill enemies and pick up your hammer, you'll be able to mow through crowds of adds no problem. Don't forget that Sunbreaker is all about sustain as well, so built into your hammer pickup mechanic is Restoration. So instead of only gaining increased ability damage, you also continuously regenerate your health as well. Our other defensive option is Sol Invictus. Again, pairing nicely with your powered melee, this aspect will create restoration applying sunspots wherever you kill an enemy with your hammer. Sunspots also damage enemies that walk through them and increase your ability regeneration, making them a great choice for builds focused around your ability usage. Up until recently, the final aspect, Consecration, went somewhat underused. Being the offensive option, it doesn't provide restoration like Sunspots do, but with the addition of Pyrogale Gauntlets, everything changes. This exotic not only improves your Consecration, making it more tempting as an option, but it also propels your Burning Maul super to new heights as well. Both Sunbreaker supers were kind of, well, not great. Hammer of Soul was pretty good at ad clear, but not much else. Burning Maul I don't think I saw very often at all. But with Pyrogales, Burning Maul is now a top tier DPS super. It now creates 3 Flame Cyclones that continuously damage and track targets. It deals a whopping 650% more damage than the unmodified Burning Maul, and as a bonus, it scorches every tick. Pyrogale also has the capability to stagger some bosses, such as Crota, so it can be very beneficial outside of pure damage numbers. Sunbreakers also have a couple other exotic choices that create different gameplay options based on your playstyle. A classic choice is of course Lauralee Splendor Helm, which greatly improves the restoration effects on sunspots. Even after its nerf, it still provides a ton of sustain for players who have difficulty staying alive, and can automatically create a sunspot in a pinch, sacrificing your barricade. Another option is the more offensive choice with Severance Enclosure. This is a great choice for bonk hammer builds, creating damaging explosions every time your powered melee gets a kill. If you want to expand from single target damage to AoE, this is the way to do it. You could also try to use Hallowfire Heart or Path of Burning Steps, but even after the reworks to these exotics, they still have seen little use. They have potential, but find it hard to compete with better options like Pyrogale Gauntlets or Lauralee Splendor Helm. In PvP, Sunbreakers are fine, maybe on the weaker side when compared to other Titan subclasses. I think they sit in a similar spot to the other 2 classes, where you have a lot of decent tools, but nothing is over the top. Healing nades, solar nades, and trip nades are all here, and as a bonus you have your barricade too. Both of your melee options are honestly not great in the Crucible, but if you opt for the Consecration aspect, you could pick up some easy kills on unsuspecting players. Plus, ranged melees are always pretty good. You can probably take either super option since neither really sticks out too much. Hammer of Soul, just like other roaming supers like Daybreak, is good for 6v6. A nice benefit for using Sunbreaker is going to be your sunspots, since it gives you access to healing effects outside of healing grenades. Again, Sunbreaker isn't necessarily bad in the Crucible, but it definitely is outpaced by Void and Arc. It has some useful tools, so if you don't want to think too much about other subclasses to use, you'll be fine sticking to Solar and PvP. Just like my other State of videos, I've got a handful of recommendations followed by my overall rating for those who want to try Solar out for yourselves. And as always, dim links will be in the video description for you to be able to immediately get up and running with Solar loadouts in-game. For hunters, you are super energy generating machines. For a boss encounter, I recommend Celestial Nighthawk, while for general gameplay, as well as some particular boss encounters, I would recommend Shards of Galanor. Pop your super, deal a ton of damage, then quickly build your meter back up with either precision kills for Nighthawk or knife kills for Galanor. Gunslinger is a great choice for staying alive, clearing out adds, and doing boss damage. Warlocks would be remiss to not play Dawnblade. You have some of the best possible exotics in the game, followed up immediately by the strongest support super in the game. Phoenix Protocol for Grandmasters, Lunafaction Boots or Rain of Fire for DPS and raids, or Sunbracers for literally anything. You set fire to the battlefield, all while keeping your team alive with Well. Plus, you could skate everywhere with Eager Edge, so that's pretty sick too. Titans literally can't die while on Sunbreaker, and they don't let much live either. Bonk Hammer is probably one of the easiest builds to use in Destiny, giving you great sustain as well as ad clear. Even if Banner of War on Strand is better for the highest end of the skill curve, Solar provides a lot of the same for a lot less effort. As long as you keep picking up your hammer, you're good to go. Pyrogale Gauntlets provide you with a fantastic super option, while simultaneously granting you some good neutral game benefits by buffing Consecration. If I were to give an overall rating for Solar, I would give it an A+. There is a reason Solar took over the game during the Season of the Wish. For any class, Solar is probably the best choice if you don't know which subclass to try. Even with the seasonal artifact leaving in, well, 2 weeks as of now, Solar still has the easiest access to sustain and has some great neutral game and supers to boot. Hopefully, some of the underperforming subclasses get some much needed attention during the final shape, but at least we know that Solar will always have our back. Or if you're a Warlock, I'm sorry that you're pretty much forced to play it, but it's because it's just that good. But what do you think? Is Solar the best subclass in the game? Does another one outpace it? Let me know in the comment section down below or over in our Discord server. Oh, and if you missed my other State of videos, they are all linked in the video description. And we've got a secret final video in this mini-series coming out next week, just before the release of the final shape that you won't want to miss. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can catch it as soon as it drops, and leave a like if you enjoyed this one. But I think that's all I've got for now. As always, I've been Rizeki, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.